On this week's Goulet Q&A, I talk about slippery grips, architect nibs, and the strangest requests we've ever gotten in order comments at gouletpens.com. Should be fun. Hey everybody, Brian Goulet here of gouletpens.com, and it is episode number 111. For those of you who are OCD, you may love the straight ones going straight across, I don't know. But anyway, it's been a crazy week. It is, let's see here, February 5th of 2016. I don't know what happened to January. I don't know what happened to 2015. This is crazy. My mic cord is too short. There we go. It's been a little nuts. We've had snow, we've had power outages. On Monday of this week, we lost power in our building for really an unexplainable reason. The power company had to come out. They had like 5 trucks in the back digging trenches and everything. It was kind of insane. But our team is so awesome. They got headlamps, they were pulling orders. You know, we went over to our neighbor and used their conference room and everybody was answering emails and stuff. We couldn't do phone, but other than that, everybody was pretty much just shifting around and it was like, oh, no power, okay, well that's weird. Well, let's see here, what can we do to work around this? And just everybody moved in place. We got such a great team here, I swear. It's awesome, awesome. So crazy stuff happens like that. Unpredictable, but it's been making for an interesting week. Let's see here, what else have we had going on? Shot a video on the Homo Sapiens Dark Ages. That's not what this is the Bronze Age. Sorry, Dark Age. I keep saying Dark Ages. I said it in the video and it's Dark Age. Ugh, get it straight, Brian. But anyway, it's a blacked out, stealthed out Homo sapiens. It's still a few weeks out. I think it's going to be early March before we actually get them, but it should be pretty sweet. Same as the Homo sapiens in the Steel and Bronze Age, but with blacked out trim, blacked out nib. It's going to be pretty sweet. So I got a video on that. You can check that out. The only thing is in the video, we're kind of debating about the nibs because we haven't been carrying broads. We don't have any stubs right now. I'm still working with Visconti on the stubs. Had some finickiness going on. Been talking with them about that, trying to work some things out there. So if you're kind of wondering what's up with Visconti stubs and why we don't have them, it's because I'm still kind of figuring those out. But playing around with those, I think we are going to be having those sometime in the next couple of weeks. Maybe. Not 100% sure on that, but if you are curious, post in the comments and I'll let you know about that. What else? So that's going to be a couple weeks out. It's going to be in the both sizes, the midi and the larger size, maxi, whatever, oversized, whatever you want to call it. Faber-Castell Emotion, we have those now. It's a stealthed out Faber-Castell, all black pen, really cool. It's a little on the pricey side. It's $175. It's kind of up there, but it's a pretty nice pen, a little heavy. But if you like that kind of style, it's kind of got a matte finish to it. It's really classy looking. So that's really cool. Did a contest on that on our blog, gave one away. That was pretty sweet. Good response on that. Had 760 entries or something. Kind of crazy. It's a little nuts there. Let's see here. Also, Jinhao number 5s. We have a couple of X750s and then one of the yellow 159s. That have number 5 nibs on them. So a little bit of a backstory here. Normally they come with a number 6 nib, this larger one here, which, you know, Goulet nibs fit it and Noodler's nibs are about this size. So a lot of people enjoy this. Well, when we got these in, we were a little bit surprised to find them because we've never seen these pens with a number 5 size nib on them. So we had to ask Jinhao, we were like, what is happening here? Well, long story short, you know, we ordered direct from Jinhao in China, and surprisingly enough, there is somewhat of a language barrier there. We have a new sales rep that we're going through to order this stuff, and they had a misunderstanding about what it is. Basically, they have multiple different sizes of nibs, like number 4, number 5, number 6. The larger the number, the bigger the size nib. Well, they thought when we ordered a medium, which is normally what we order in the tip size, they thought we meant medium nib size. So they actually don't normally make these with number 5 nibs. They kind of custom made them, and it took about a month longer than it normally does, and we were very curious as to what was happening, and then we got them in and realized why it took longer than it did. So sometimes things behind the scenes are a little more challenging than you may even realize, and even though we've been ordering for them for a couple of years, still some things can happen in translation. So it's we have those pens. We are doing a buy one get one free on those number 5 size nibs because we just want to get them out the door as quickly as possible. Cost be darned, so we can just not be confusing people left and right. So order those, take them. You know, if you buy one number 5 size Jinhao X750 or 159, you'll get another one for free. So they have been moving quickly already. I don't know how long we're going to have them. We have a pretty decent quantity because we have to order in very large quantities, but the BOGO seems to be working well, so I don't know how long we're going to have them. Another kind of exciting thing is we're going to be having Goulet black nibs pretty soon. We have them in, we inspect and test them all. So it's going to take a little time to get them in, get them photographed and all this stuff, but I'll show you just what it looks like. It's a blacked out nib. Really, it's very, very quite black. It's got a nice plating on it. It's not just like a painting or anything like that. So they should be pretty durable. Nice little GP splatter logo there that pops quite a bit. These are going to be extra fine, medium, broad, 1.1 and 1.5 millimeter stub in the number 6 size. So you can fit it on all of your number 6 size nib pens. So that's pretty cool. They're going to be the same price as the other nibs. So we're really excited about those. We did not think that we would be able to get black nibs, but it's something that Yobo has started to offer. So you may see them cropping up through other retailers or manufacturers that use Yobo nibs, but it's something that we're going to have available, and we're super stoked about it. Also, I'm even hesitant to even show this because we're going to get such a limited batch, but what the heck. If you're a loyal Q&A watcher, you'll be kind of the first to know. Noodler's Violet Vote. So this was originally Iraqi Indigo, for those of you who've been following Noodlers for many years. We are getting a very limited quantity. This used to be an exclusive through Pandemonium, I believe. But I think that is ending. Nathan is not going to be making the ink ongoing. It's a permanent purple ink. Basically modeled after the ink that was used for the Iraqi democratic vote after the Iraq War. Wasn't, you know, I don't want to get on to the political side of that, but if you like that ink and you're aware of it, then hopefully you've already gotten it. It's not going to be around for long. We don't have a ton of them. Nathan kind of made like what he could left out of the supplies that he had, and he will not be making it ongoing because apparently the dyes and stuff are really hard to come by anyway. So he will not have that ongoing. So it's like a one-shot deal for us. So we're not pushing it really, really hard. It's kind of like for those who are aware of it can get it. Also, we're going to be getting the Lamy Charged Green All-Star. It's the 2016 Special Edition All-Star color that's coming out. I have a video on that already, so you can check that out. But we're going to be getting those in. We were supposed to have them on Wednesday. It got delayed because of the tracking was off, and then so it took an extra day. So hopefully, I mean, it's Thursday morning as of when I'm shooting this right now. We're supposed to get them later today, have the newsletter out, start selling them if all goes to plan, but we never know because until we have them in our shop, we just don't know. But hopefully by the time you're watching this, we'll have them. They'll be available for sale. You can pick up your Charge Green. I think we're getting all the nib sizes. Originally, we weren't going to be getting the extra fine. I don't know. There's so much drama behind the scenes with the logistics of this stuff. It's just amazing. But we should have all that pretty darn soon. And then I don't know about the bottled ink. There is a bottled ink for the Charge Green that's going to be coming out. I don't think that's coming out with the pens. Cartridges, I think, are, but not the bottled ink. The bottled ink is going to come later. I don't know. We'll get you straight on that once we actually know. Also, Artelier Gargoyle sealing wax has been very popular. Also, the manufacturers of that, it's a husband and wife team, very small operation. They had a death in the family and haven't been keeping stock as much as they would like, but I think they're getting back on the wagon, and we are starting to see some more of that coming in, so that's good if you've been waiting for that. Also, got a couple interviews that we've been doing, some Goulet guest videos. We're pretty darn excited about these. I've been trying to line up people to do it. I got several people I've been talking to back channel that I think you're going to be really excited about. So I've already recorded the first one. It is going to be with Liz Steele, the Urban Sketcher, and she is a hoot. She's from Australia, so we Skyped and doing a dual recording with Skype on the interview, so it's kind of a new thing that we've never done before. I'm really excited about it. Jenny's cutting it together right now. We recorded it on Wednesday afternoon, which was weird because it was Thursday morning where she was. So it was like 8 o'clock in the morning for her, 4 in the afternoon for us. It was really cool, but Liz is awesome. She's got some great tutorials on doing drawing and sketching and stuff like that. So I think you'll really be interested to see where she's coming from, and she's just so talented. It's really crazy. But really fun interview. She kind of fangirled out a little bit with us because she's watched a lot of my videos. We fangirled slash bullied out a little bit with her. Madigan especially is a huge fan of hers and really kind of set up the interview. So big shout out to you, Madigan. But anyway, so we'll be doing more of that stuff. And I think, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but we're lining up one with Kara from Boho Berry as well. I'm also talking to Dan Bishop, talking to Jonathan Deans from Penn Economics blog, talking to some others, Nathan Tardif from Noodlers, looking to set that up soon. So we're gonna have some pretty cool interviews. I'm gonna try to nail Brad Dowdy down. I'm sure he'd be up for that. Just haven't communicated that clearly with him yet. So looking to line up some pretty cool stuff. So I'm open to suggestions there if there's anybody that you think would be cool for me to interview. Doing more. It won't be in place of the Friday Q&As. Maybe every now and then it will be if the week just gets crazy. But I'm anticipating I'm gonna keep the normal Q&A thing going like this, but then kind of sprinkle in between maybe on Tuesdays here and there for these additional interviews, so you get bonus footage. So that should be a lot of fun. All right, let's get to the questions for this week. I've got some pen and writing questions. I will say I got not a lot of questions necessarily, but some really good quality questions. So I had some that I really liked that I had to kind of save. So thank you everybody who's submitting questions. Really helpful, and I got a lot of good ones. So kind of picked some of my top ones here this week. So Katie B on Facebook said, you know, she's seen that I have very oily hands. She said, I also suffer from oily hand syndrome, and I'm becoming a little frustrated with slippery grips. I'm curious as to which fountain pens would be more pleasurable to write with for those with oily hands. I hope to own a Visconti Homo Sapiens Dark Age one day, and I know it would be bloody beaut to write with. But until then, any suggestions? All price range options would be great. Okay, so basically it's not so much like which ones are the best, it's more about avoiding the ones that are the most troublesome for oily-handed folk like us. I have very oily fingers. It just is part of who I am, and I embrace that. Just a naturally very oily person. So the things that you really kind of want to avoid when you have really oily fingers is slick metal grips. Some people really like slick metal grips because it's kind of cool to the touch. They like the way that it feels, and I totally get that. But for me, I can use them in short stints, but for long writing sessions, it ends up kind of causing some trouble with my hand, because the longer I write, the more oil kind of builds up and it tends to get kind of slick and slippery, which means I have to grasp it firmer, which can then kind of lock up my hand a little bit. So I tend to like pens with slightly larger grip sections, pens that have you know, certain materials that are made from the grip, and then certain shapes of the grip. So I don't have an extensive list for you here today, but I'll show you a few of the ones that I've worked with that are really good. So kind of starting on the lower range, the Lamy Safari in charcoal is good because it's not only is it plastic, which is kind of better in general, but some of the other Lamy Safaris are slick plastic, which is not as bad as metal, but can still slip a little bit. But this charcoal has a little bit of texture to it. And I'm going to zoom in for a few minutes here while I explain through some of these pens. You're going to see my how badly I need to shave here, so sorry about that. But so you can see it's got kind of a matte texture to it, and it's not like a bumpy texture, but it's got more of a grip to it than all the other Safaris do. And it's the dark lilac pen that's going to be coming out. Finally, the purple Safari is going to have this same texture as well. I just don't have that one yet to show you. So this is definitely one that you could consider a little bit on the lower end price range. If you want to move up a little bit, the Lamy Studio, which normally I say the Studio grip is one of the worst because it is usually slick metal and it tapers too, so it just is really hard to hold on to. But the stainless steel one, which we affectionately call around here the fish pen because it kind of looks like fish scales when it's like shiny and whatnot. It's like a brushed stainless steel. But it has a rubberized grip, so that helps tremendously to give you a good grip. So the Studio is one of the best and one of the worst grip pens for those with oily hands right there. So I would urge you to look at that. This is actually an old limited edition, whoa, camera's wigging out on me, an old limited edition Edison Nouveau Premier, the first limited edition we ever did in this blue swirl ebonite. And the reason that I'm showing this to you is not just to tease because it's not available anymore and hasn't been for, geez, has it been 5 years? Holy crap, I'm getting old. Anyway, it is ebonite. And ebonite is a slightly porous material. I forget the exact word, fancy scientific word that's used for it, like hygromatic or hygro something, whatever. But it is slightly porous, so it's basically made of hard rubber, and as you're writing with it, it kind of absorbs the oil in your hands, so it gives a really kind of a firm grip. Now, not just this pen, but any ebonite pen is going to have that hygrostatic. Something, okay, sorry, it's gonna bug me. I think it's hygrostatic. I don't know, you can tell me in the comments if I'm wrong. But anyway, any ebonite pen is gonna have those properties, which is really good. And that's also kind of what you have going on in your dream pen that you have here, the Homo Sapiens. That is the same kind of situation. It's made of volcanic rock. So it's not just straight up volcanic rock, because that's too porous and the ink would seep out of the pen basically. But if you have like this material, they basically pound up the volcanic rock and then cast it into like a resin, so it's kind of the best of both worlds. You get the durability and flexibility of the resin, the hardness and the porous nature of the volcano rock, but it's got the same kind of thing going on as the ebonite. A very similar feel to ebonite actually, maybe slightly rougher, a little more porous, but it has the same properties going on there where it'll absorb the moisture in your fingers. So it's one of the better ones for that. And then also another good one I think is the Lamy 2000. I really like this one. It's a macrolon and also stainless steel grip, but it's brushed. So it gives you, it is a metal grip, but because it's brushed, it gives you a really good kind of grip on it. And it's got the taper too. So it can be, debatable as to whether this one is the best one for most people, but I like it a lot. I use it with no issue whatsoever. But in general, like any pen that you're using that has a plastic or resin grip on it is gonna be pretty darn good. And I think when you have a slippery situation going on, getting something with a slightly bigger grip section is good. And one of the better ways that you can check that out is if you go to our Pen Plaza tool on gouletpens.com. You can see how well the grips compare to each other. So if you have a particular pen that you like the grip, you want something like it or bigger, go to the Pen Plaza. You can do a drop down. We have images that are all standardized for size, so you can see how one grip compares to another very literally. So that's kind of cool feature that we have there. That's about it. Next one, this is from, I hope I say your name right, Pato W on Facebook. And Pato here, gosh, I hope it's right. Pato maybe, I don't know. Pato, I'll say Pato. Pato here really took to heart my requests for more questions and asked 27 questions in one paragraph on Facebook. So Pato, thank you for all of those questions. I literally could have done 2 Q&As just off those questions you asked. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of space them out a little bit. I may not answer all of them, but I have 3 of your questions for this week. And the first of which is this one. Pato asked, is there such a thing as a fountain pen with a glow-in-the-dark body? I thought that was a really interesting question, especially after I talked about the stars on the ceiling in Rachel's childhood bedroom. But is there anything with a glow-in-the-dark body? I had to rack my brain. I know I don't have anything that's glow-in-the-dark. Did some searches online. I haven't heard of anything that's glow-in-the-dark. Did some searches online. I found nothing that has glow-in-the-dark features on a fountain pen. I don't know if that would be particularly valuable or interesting to anyone. I would imagine if it was, somebody probably would have done it by now, but I don't know. Maybe there could be demand for it. Who knows? Visconti, somebody out there, maybe want to make a glow-in-the-dark pen. I don't know, but we'll see. But no, I hate to have an answer that's like, but that's really it. I have never seen a pen with a glow-in-the-dark body. I would love to be wrong. Let me know in the comments if you've ever seen one, but I have never seen one. Another question from Pato as well on Facebook. This is a really good one. Could you please explain what an architect nib is? There's been a bit of buzz lately about architect, not a huge buzz, but there's been some interest in architect nibs, and I can say that there is no commercially available architect nib that I know of. It's always a custom grind, so it's kind of limited in interest just because of what you have to go through to get one. But I have been hearing a little bit more about it. There are some newer nibmeisters that are getting into architect grinds that I have heard about, so it maybe it's something that's up and coming or of some interest, but essentially I don't have like a good way to show kind of what it is, but basically if you think about a normal stub nib, it's kind of flat like this, right? So as you're writing on the cross stroke, it's going to be a thinner line, and on the down stroke it's going to be a fatter line, and I'm about to sneeze. I usually go in pairs. No? No, just a single this time. Okay, that second one's looming, I bet. So a stub is, or italic, whatever you want to call it, cross stroke thin, downstroke fat. Architect nib is the opposite of that. So if you basically take a stub grind and turn it 90 degrees, it's so that your cross stroke is fat and your downstroke is thin. Now, why is it called an architect nib? That's a great question, and probably something I should have researched sooner. I'm imagining it's because there's some advantage to doing it in architectural drawings, but I don't really know. I probably should have looked that up, but I didn't, so what are you gonna do? I'm not gonna lie and say fudge my way through it. I don't know exactly why it's called an architect nib. You know, it's kind of like, why is a music nib and music nib? Well, it's kind of used for music, yes, but not really anymore. Are architects using architect nibs? No, not really, but that's just what the grind is called. So for your sake, if you want to learn more about the history, there's more research that could be done that I will be doing in the future, now that I'm embarrassed that I don't have that question ahead of time. But you know, I was up prepping these video questions at like 12:30 last night, and it was just kind of crazy. But anyway, so that is basically what it is. So it's kind of a specific use, not something that is necessarily appealing to everyone, but it's kind of neat. It gives an interesting kind of flair to your writing. So you can, you know, Google images of architect nibs and grinds and stuff like that, and you can see kind of what it looks like. But that's basically what's going on with it. And you know, the grind, it's not particularly easy to do. I want to say you're going to pay somewhere in the $60 to $80 range to get an architect grind done on a pen, plus shipping and correspondence and all this kind of stuff. So it's not going to be everybody that wants it done, but it's kind of an interesting nib. All right, this question is from Magali H on Facebook. How come Goulet Pens does not sell Caran d'Ache fountain pens? Are there any plans to do so? Okay, good question, fair enough. We are a Caran d'Ache retailer. We're an authorized retailer for Caran d'Ache, but why don't we sell their pens? A lot of it is just simple economics, supply and demand. We have not had a lot of people asking for them. They are pretty expensive pens. They're definitely a premium pen. Switzerland's currency is much more expensive than the US, so importing anything from there automatically just makes it a more expensive product just because of the you know, currency exchange. So that's part of why their ink is so much more expensive and all that, but they definitely make premium level products. I've actually never used their pens very extensively. I've heard their pens are outstanding quality, but you definitely pay a pretty high premium to get that. So it's something that obviously, like any other product here, if the people are knocking down our doors for it, we will certainly look into it, consider it. I have no qualms about the quality and that being a good product, but it's, you know, you're paying a lot for it. So I would very much be willing to consider it if people were interested, but that's, we have no immediate plans to do so because we haven't had really many people asking us about it at all. Kind of the same with some other brands, you know, like Waterman and some of these other things. With Waterman, we've had people asking a little more, but like some of the high-end Parker and stuff like that, we just haven't had a lot of people ask. And then when we say the price, they're like, no thanks. All right, Beth S on Facebook says, This is an ink question. Are you aware of any white or light colored inks that would write on dark paper and envelopes? Good question. Been asked this plenty of times before. I may have even answered it previously in a Q&A, but I have at least somewhat of an answer now. Previously, my answer has always been use gel pens or calligraphy dip pens and ink, because you need pigment to be able to get a white or a light color like that. There is no dye that is white. So you really can't do that. So you pretty much need a pigmented ink. Now, the exceptions being Noodler's Whiteness of the Whale. I don't know what that's made of, and it seems somewhat like magic. And there is a Diatramentis document ink that is white that I have never used, that is new. Liz Steele has used it, and I'm jealous. She's done some blog posts on that. And it's kind of a milky white, though. It's not a pure white. It can show up on darker paper, but it's not great. It's mainly more for mixing, you know, both the document and the Whiteness of the Whale. It's really not to be used as a standalone ink. It's to mix with other colors so that you can kind of get a lighter property. So for example, if you have a dark purple and you mix it with white, it's gonna make more of a lilac color. You know, if you have a red and you mix it, it's gonna make more of a pink. So that's kind of what it's for, really. It's not meant to be as a standalone ink that is this, like, you know, white pen. Like, I grew up, I went to school and had those milky pens, you know what I'm talking about? Like with the black paper, and you write with those milky pens, and then it looks all kinds of crazy, and the teachers hate it because they can't read anything. But there's not really a fountain pen equivalent, because to really get a true kind of white that pops off the paper, you need pigment to do that. The pigment will not flow well through a fountain pen. So unless you get one of these like milkier looking inks like Whiteness of the Whale or the Diatramentis, there's really not going to be an option other than going with a gel pen or a calligraphy ink. Got some really good business questions this week. 3 of them that just really, I couldn't not answer these. So these are good. Kenneth here. Ooh, Kenneth's question was tough, but I wanted to take it head on. Kenneth C on Facebook asked, how much do you think it hurts your business that there are sellers in various countries that are undercutting the prices that you're able to offer? For example, I've seen Japanese sellers on eBay and Amazon that are selling the Vanishing Point and the 3776 Century for under $100 with shipping. Is this something that concerns you as you look into the future? Do you think that they're significantly cutting into your sales by bypassing import-export rules? Thanks. This is such a sore spot. I just, you know, I'm a retailer. You guys know, if you've been watching these, I spend so much time putting out videos and content like this for free. We've structured our whole company to be service oriented and do all this like really kind of above and beyond stuff. And there is nothing that just like feels like more of a low blow than when somebody who hasn't done all that stuff comes in, tries to undercut us on price and steal away loyal customers. It's just general business. It happens all the time in every industry, but man, is it just like knock the wind out of our sails around here. When, not sales like, well, I mean, I guess, yeah, it affects our sales, but like wind out of our metaphorical sails. When we do so much to try to run an awesome company and then somebody else just undercuts on price. So how are they doing that? Especially with such a huge discrepancy like this. It's not a simple answer. It's not just a matter of, oh, Goulet's got all this fluff built in, we're just raking in the dough, and somebody else is just willing to take a lower price. That's not really necessarily the case, okay? So there's a lot of different factors going on here. I'll try to address most of them, but it is complicated. It does depend on the manufacturer, where it's coming from, all these things. There's a lot of different factors. Currency exchange rates, import-export taxes, legal requirements and liabilities, safety inspections and stuff like that in different countries. Actually, a really, really good blog post that I am really glad he wrote it, from Penn Economics blog. It's called The Pilot Pricing Puzzle, and I've got a link to it in the blog. You should check that out and actually click around in his first paragraph, because he wrote it kind of in response. He's got a PhD in economics, and he wrote kind of the economic reasoning behind some of maybe why you see specifically Pilot as kind of this case study here, why you're seeing pricing in different continents the way that you are. And it was done in response to this other gentleman, Ian, who wrote on his blog about specifically the UK pricing for Pilot products, why they're so much higher than the US and then of course Japan. So he actually wrote Pilot about it. Pilot wrote him back as to why that is, and that was, I thought it was amazingly thorough. And I can say from being kind of in the industry, it's amazing they took the time to write that, and it makes a whole lot of sense as to why that is. Now, it's tough because somebody just shopping online, you don't necessarily think like, oh, they're in a different country, they have different culture, different regulations, different all kinds of things, taxes, all that stuff. You're just looking online, it's like one website versus another. Who cares, whatever, I want my stuff, give me the lowest price. You don't really think about it much. I understand because I tend to do the same thing when I'm shopping for things. Being in the industry and of course, very much having my own financial stuff tied in to how all this stuff works, I care about this stuff way more than probably the average person will, which is why I speak about it so passionately. Now, the caveat that I want to say, to just lay it down right here, is I'm not like sore or bitter about this at all. I understand it's business, it's just how it goes, it's economics, there's factors going on. I just want to try to educate you as the end user to understand what are some of the impacts that you're doing when you are what I call voting with your dollars. You are literally supporting certain ways of doing business when you're buying from different places. You are. That's what happens. No one would be in business if it wasn't for people buying their stuff. It just wouldn't happen. I don't care how big the company is, they will fall if people stop buying from them, right? So it really matters, maybe not on a one person or two people, but if everybody in general starts to swing a certain direction in terms of philosophy and how they think and who they want to support, it can take down even the big dogs. So it really does matter in the end. So try to educate you just a little bit here. There are many, many factors going on. Specifically, you're talking about Japanese sellers on eBay, Amazon, etc. So part of this is, yes, they do not have their own websites. Maybe they do, but probably they don't. So they're selling through an Amazon, eBay, something like that. Of course, they're taking a cut of that, but the information that they're going to have on there is very limited. So they are not the ones who are truly out there like promoting these products. Basically, if you didn't already have an awareness and a desire to shop for these products, they would not be able to sell them, because you'd be like, what is a 3776? Who cares? Whatever. You already have an awareness of them from something else. Where are you getting that awareness? From somebody else that's done the legwork to educate, promote, market, discuss, talk about, troubleshoot, customer service those products. So if everybody in the world was only listing things on eBay, Amazon, and those kind of other, there's really nothing inherently wrong with that way of doing it, but if that's all there was, you would not have a clue what the heck you were ever buying, because the short product descriptions they have on there it's essentially a crapshoot unless you have somebody who's taking the time to really educate more. And yes, there are like some reviewers and stuff like that who give some information there, but part of what I believe I as a retailer not only should, but I'm obligated to do to earn my pay and to earn your, respect and trust, is I believe I should put out good, solid information, teach you about products, add value to you so that you see a reason to support me and try to keep me around. Because as fun as these videos are for me to produce, they take a lot of time, a lot of energy. There's other things that I'm giving up so that I can spend time doing this. If I didn't have other areas of my company that were producing the income that was needed for me to take the time to shoot these videos, Goulet videos would go away. Like really, I would, as good of a person as I am, I simply would not be able to provide for my family and provide for the 33, 34 people, now we have some people in transition, but for the more than 30 people that we have in this company, if I was not thinking about how I can, help to provide the best living situations for everybody, here. And the way that I do that is by providing you the best value possible, right? So for me, I've taken a high touch approach to doing that, and that's fine. Not everybody wants to do that. Not everybody's capable of doing that. Fine. But, and this is kind of what Jonathan talks about in his posts, is like there's kind of two approaches: the high, you know, high cost, low volume approach and the low cost, high volume approach and all these kind of things. And he gets more into that from more of a distributor manufacturer level. But as a retailer, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm not trying to just shove stuff out the door at a low margin and just try to sell it. I care more about educating and talking to people. It's the personal touch, and I believe that investing in people and educating you in the long haul will do me better than just trying to sell a pen, right? Hopefully I sell pens. That's obviously how I stay around. But it's not necessarily the front end goal. Ultimately, that's where I want to end up, but I'm in this for the long game. So it gets really challenging when I have people who are competing purely on price. And Seth Godin, good marketing guy, says that the problem with a race to the bottom is that you just might win. And there's all kinds of articles, all kinds of opinions out there about ways of running business, ways of marketing, ways of doing all this kind of stuff. And there's a lot of people with differing opinions, and that's why there are lots of different styles, lots of different businesses out there. But in general, if everybody is racing to the bottom and trying to do low cost and all that, it devalues the brand, customer service goes away, marketing goes away, education goes away, because no one can afford to do it if you're racing and cutting margin and trying to be razor, razor, razor thin. There are some companies out there, there are some others out there who are essentially trying to skim and take advantage of those who are doing that kind of high touch marketing experience, and they're trying to just undercut on price and steal away that business. That's, you know, I'm using some fairly harsh language here, and there may be some very well-intended, very, you know, people like that are running these kind of low margin businesses, and that's fine. That's the way they choose to do it. But it is a difference in philosophy and how a business should be run. I personally have invested a ton of time into trying to educate, add value, do high-touch customer service, because that's just the way that I want to do business. Not everybody else wants to do it that way. I think that there's a particular value that's added to the industry and to my customers by doing it that way. It's not going to be for everybody, though. There are going to be a set number of people out there that no matter what I do, if somebody else is 50 cents cheaper, they're going to go buy there. And that's fine, really. I'm not going to try and change any of those people's minds. And that's not who I'm talking to right now. I'm talking to you who are actually willing to sit here and watch me in a video and talk for 10 minutes on this one question about my business philosophy, because you care enough to know what's kind of going on behind the scenes. So thank you to all of you who are doing that. So I spend time doing the Q&A, and others are not, and that's okay. So when you are buying from me versus somebody else, you're supporting this way of doing business versus just having an eBay listing, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with eBay. Again, eBay is great for a lot of things, but I'm talking specifically in this kind of situations. Now, what gets interesting when you're talking about buying from different countries, okay? And this is where Pilot's response in the link that Jonathan had in his post was really good and explained it even better than I will right now. So if you can get a chance, go check that out if you're interested. But to summarize it, there are a lot of you know, legal and other ramifications, other costs that you may not even think about or care about, but they are real, that are involved in selling in different countries, different continents. So some of them are marketing costs. Like the example he gives in the blog post is the US versus Europe. The US, we benefit from having one common language and a distribution network where you're not having to cross borders, things like that. In Europe, the marketing costs are significantly higher because you have a lot of different languages, many different cultures in a compact area. They have distributorship set up, but they have 5 distributors where we have 1. And so it gets to be a challenge there just because there's so much more overhead to just make people aware of products and troubleshoot them and have all these different marketing approaches. And then not only that, but you have the legal ramifications. Like what's interesting is I'm going to use the Pilot E95S as an example. That pen is called the Pilot Elite in Japan. We can't call it the Pilot Elite in the US because the name Elite is already trademarked by a different company. I forget who it is. Parker, maybe? Or somebody else. I don't remember exactly who, forgive me there. But somebody else already has the name Elite Book, so we can't call it the Pilot Elite. So it has to be marketed as something else. They chose E95S. I'm pretty sure that one's not taken up by anybody else. But that's why pens have to be, that's why it's called the Metropolitan in the US, the Cocoon in Japan, and the MR in Europe. Similar pen, same pen actually for the most part, just some slight differences, but you know, it's got to be called different things because there are legal ramifications if you're infringing on trademarks and stuff, and you can get sued and stuff like that. So the challenge that comes in, you know, and there comes some criticism from end users about like distributorships and, oh, it's just all these markups and middlemen and so on and so forth. Well, I get some of that. I really do. Definitely for some industries and things like that, there are just straight up middlemen that are just taking cuts and really not necessarily earning their wage. I'm not going to be specific about any, but that happens, I'm sure, in some industries. I, from being a retailer, don't really feel that that's the case with the pen industry. And let me explain why. Because at least in the US, I'm not going to speak to everybody, but my experience has been in the US, we do not have a very strong fountain pen culture. It is not ingrained in us. We do not teach our kids to use fountain pens in school like they do in Japan and parts of Europe. It's not ingrained in our culture. So for us, you know, we don't have a lot of manufacturers making these products. We have to import all of them from other countries. They speak different languages. The currency rates are different. There are way different like trademark and legal things, exports, all these kind of complicated things. You know, and when you get to be a certain size importing this stuff, you are subject to all kinds of quality testing and safety and inspections and customs and all these things that take a lot of time and a lot of money to do if you want to really distribute a brand in another country. If you are just an individual seller and you're importing stuff, little bits and pieces here and there, you're small enough where you're not subject to those types of things, or it's kind of a loophole, or you're not getting discovered yet or whatever. But if you're a distributor and you're importing stuff from Japan or Europe or whatever into the US, you're subject to all of those things. And you got to deal with quite a bit of hassle. And the more that I get to know our distributors and kind of what they have to deal with, oh boy, it gets to be pretty darn challenging. Let me tell you, they earn their pay, and they're not making like huge markups, you know, for the most part. They're earning their pay with that kind of stuff, that kind of hassle. Not to mention the currency rate fluctuates so much. I mean, especially in the last year. Just look at what the dollar has done compared to the euro, the pound, the yen. It's really been changing drastically. But if you notice, yes, there are some price increases here and there, but it's not like when you buy a pen, it's a different price this week than last week, and then it goes down, and then it goes up 20% and stuff like that. That's really what the currency is doing. And if that was the case and you had really slim margins and you were just shipping, you know, from one country, you would have a lot more of that going on, you know, without some kind of distributor who's helping to kind of ride that out and float a little bit of that currency exchange rate. So they're buying things, they're negotiating in large scales with the manufacturer to bring in and do the import and stuff like that, and kind of make it so that you're seeing maybe a once a year kind of price change as opposed to every couple of weeks, because that's pretty much what it would be otherwise, as drastically as things can change sometimes. You know, people are okay with if they drop, but they're not okay with if they are rising quickly, right? But that's a little more the roller coaster you'd be riding without some distributor to help plan for that. Also, what I've seen, for example, from Pilot, the Pilot catalog of what that company offers as a whole is like this thick. It's kind of the same thing with Clairefontaine and Rhodia and like 8,500 products, you know, I think Clairefontaine has. We have maybe a few hundred of them in the US, and that's because the demand is very different. The products that these people make is just, there's so much of it, it would be completely overwhelming, and you would have no idea what you would want and what you'd be in for if the full thing was offered. Not only that, but it would not be economical to try and import all of that stuff. So these distributors are really knowledgeable about supply and demand and what you as the customer wants to be offered, and they know what they shouldn't bring in, which is as important, if not more, than what they should bring in to the country. So it can be a real challenge in that way to deal with that kind of stuff. So that's something that a distributor really adds value on. Going back real quick to kind of the legal side of things, one challenge that's presented when a retailer or an individual is you know, selling without any authorized distributorship to other countries is they could be selling something that's called one name that's not legally allowed to be marketed in another country. And that exposes liability to the parent company that's actually manufacturing that product. So if a company is selling the Pilot Elite in the US, that could be exposing liability. Hopefully I'm not exposing anything. I'm just using this as an example, everybody. You know, if that was to be happening, then Pilot, the company, could be open to liability and be sued by the company that owns the trademark for the Elite. So that undercutter could actually be causing some serious liability and damage to the manufacturer, who then has to fight legal battles and stuff like that because of this kind of rogue person that's doing it. So it's actually can be quite dangerous, and because of that, the manufacturers do not like people going outside their distributorship. You know, I as a retailer have agreements with the distributors for Pilot, for, you know, these other companies about, you know, kind of ways and proper means about selling these products. And the reason that is because it's to help protect the company as a whole, because as much as we love these products, if they get sued into oblivion and they're not available anymore, we all lose, right? So we want to make sure that we're kind of doing things by the rules, and that's why these rules are in place. It's not just because they're a bunch of fat cats trying to make as much money as possible. That hasn't been my experience anyway in all the companies I've been dealing with. In fact, most of the fountain pen companies, these are not massive companies. There are some. There are some conglomerates that own some of the larger pen companies, and you can kind of tell. You can kind of tell when a company is just like riding their name and they keep raising their prices. They haven't come out with anything innovative, and you can tell they're just kind of trying to fluff it up. And I'm not going to go into specifics about who that might be, but in general, we tend not to carry very deep into some of those brands. But brands like Pilot and Platinum and these other ones, they're not really in that situation. They are larger companies, but that's because they make solid products. And we have really good relationships with them. So it does tend to get a little sticky in that way. So they get pretty heated when they have kind of these, you know, individual retailers who go and sell on eBay, Amazon, Mass Drop, you name it, whoever it is, these kind of discounting, you know, companies, and they kind of skirt around the rules. It's called a gray market. You know, they're not selling on the up and up. A lot of times these sellers are not authorized retailers. A lot of times they are not even getting the product directly from the manufacturer. Sometimes they, actually many times, they will mask who their supplier is. So they'll set up shell companies or make agreements with, kind of backdoor agreements with other retailers who are buying the product for them, so that they can't be traced back to the original manufacturer as to where they're getting their supply. So it's not illegal, so to speak, in terms of, you know, they're breaking the law, but they're certainly breaking the buying agreements with, well, if they're not breaking the buying agreements because they don't have one with the original manufacturer, they are through whatever affiliate that they're trying to buy through. It's really sketchy. It's really sketchy, some of the stuff. And I'm not going to blame specifically any one, you know, source that's doing this, but this is kind of how it's going on. So if you are shopping around and someone is way deeper on price than everybody else, it should raise a little bit of a flag to you. Like, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. Now, that said, you know, there's a lot of people out there that have bought from some of these, you know, undercutters and stuff like that, and that may be getting legitimate product. But the way that they're going about it may or may not be legitimate. It may or may not be warranted. It might be used product. It might be fake. It might be, you know, gotten through gray market means. And it's just, when you really think about it at the end of the day, is that helping the brand? Is that helping the industry? Is that helping fountain pens in general? Not really. It's helping you to buy something a little bit cheaper in the short term, but in the long term, is that really helping? It's really not. And I'm extremely biased by saying that, because I don't participate in that kind of way of doing business. I do stuff on the up and up, and I always abide by agreements that we have with all of our vendors. We look to have the best vendor relationships possible in that way. Not everybody wants to take that same approach. And no, look, I am not the ultimate ruler of the universe, so I will not make judgments toward individual people. I'm just trying to inform you as to how some of these things go on behind the scenes, so that you can make your best judgment call about the companies that you want to support. And I cast no judgment on you. Like, I know all the time, like, somebody will say, hey, I watched your video and then I bought the pen on Amazon because it was a lot cheaper. it stings a little bit, but honestly, at this point, I'm 6 years in. I haven't played that game, and I'm sitting here with a larger company, still doing it, still a great community of people. So I believe in the goodwill of people, that if I do this for you, you will trust me and support my company, and I'll still be better off in the long run. I know it's not going to be the case for everyone. I'm not going to win everybody over. Sometimes the price is so good, or you don't have the money, but you want that pen, you want to get it through whatever means you can. I'm not going to judge you about that. Like, you got to do what you feel is best. But really, think about in the long term what you're supporting and kind of what's going on, because it does have an impact long term. Now, for me individually, is it affecting things? Yes. I mean, absolutely. It is affecting things. You know, I had mentioned the legal liability exposes to the companies. That puts a threat to me. If you know, Pilot or somebody gets sued into oblivion, that's going to hurt me. It's going to hurt the whole community. So I don't want that to happen. So I look to protect that as much as I'm able to. But also, you know, there are specific things like certain pens. Pelican's a good example. We get undercut on Pelican from overseas, and we don't offer a lot of high-end Pelicans because of how difficult that is to kind of control from Pelican's end. So that's why you don't see us offering and talking about a lot of Pelicans, is because there's a lot of demand for it, but the prices that people expect on those is so far below what Pelican would like us to sell it for, you know, legitimately, that we just can't do it. So that sucks. You know, you know way less about Pelican than you would if I was able to sell it really at a good price. And I've talked to Pelican about this, and you know, it's something that they are aware of, and it's very challenging for them. They're a large company. It's very challenging for them to kind of police. And I'm not joking. There is like, sometimes there's a shop in a certain country, and it's like somebody is buying like parts, or like they've literally had it be where someone is stealing parts out of the factory and then assembles them and then goes through a different company to sell them online. Like, some of the craziest stuff happens because if there's an opportunity to make money, some people will go through whatever means. Obviously that's not on the up and up, but that's some of how this stuff crops up in these random sellers online, and you don't really know that much about them because some of this kind of shady stuff is going on to sell it. But you know, you're gonna pay a little bit more to get stuff through all like fully legitimate channels and all that, because that's, you know, there's a lot of measures that need to be taken to kind of police that stuff. And it is difficult trying to kind of take the high road sometimes, but for me, there's no other option. There's no other way that I would want to do business. So you know, there's definitely some pens that we don't offer or can't offer because there just isn't demand for it at the price that it really needs to be sold at to do it the way we do it. So you know, some of the Platinum as an example, you know, some of their higher end stuff, we got into some of their celluloids and their Maquier and stuff like that. We were getting undercut so bad through Japanese sellers that we just discontinued, we just blew them all out and we're not selling them anymore. So I very rarely talk about the higher end Platinum pens because the Undercutters are so vicious that it's not economical for me to carry them. So that's a really good kind of real example of, if you really are interested in like Platinum Maquiers and stuff like that, I just can't get motivated to sell them because I know I won't be able to because of these Undercutters. So that's a very real kind of tangible thing that's affecting you in knowing more about these pens. So you're going to be left with people like me not talking about them, and you're going to be left kind of just taking a complete gamble. And if from the larger scope, I know I'm going forever on this question, but it's really, really important to me. So in the grand scheme of things, if in the long term the parent company is not, you know, kind of watching out for this stuff and they're just allowing whatever to happen, that's fine. They can do it whatever they want, but in the end it will hurt them, because retailers that really take the time and need to be financially benefiting from taking the time to do all the education and the customer service and the follow-up and the warranties and all that kind of stuff, if they are not able to be fairly compensated for their time and effort, then the only retailers that will be left will be the Undercutters. And then that's going to hurt the brand in the long run, because you're not going to be aware of the products, you're going to have sketchy experiences and not like them, and then go shopping with other brands, and it's going to hurt them in the long run. So it's really, it has to come back to the parent company and what they're willing and able to do, and kind of help control and police that. But it's really, really tough. The global economy is getting really tough because a lot of the laws and legal regulations and stuff like that and ways that you have to go about these things is not kept up with the speed of the internet and how quickly you as an individual are able to shop online and kind of buy from whoever you want. It's really a challenge, and it's not going to get any easier. So that's how I'll kind of wrap it all up. Whew, that was a heavy question, but I wanted to take it head on. Hopefully I represented my company and my manufacturer as well. I may take a little heat for that question. I just hope that you can see the good intention that I have behind answering that one. I fully understand I may take some flack for that one, but that's okay. I'm willing to keep the conversation ongoing. I'll follow up in the chat. I'll follow up in the comments about you if you really want to get on me about that one. But I feel it's important enough where I still wanted to address it. Okay. Big question there. This next one I have, this is, gosh, this is gonna be another good one. Okay, Ashley K on Facebook. It kind of piggybacks nicely off of the previous question. Ashley K on Facebook. The more GPC grows, which aspect of your mission of proving online business can be personal is the most challenging to maintain? Staffing, social media, video photography, or something else? Inkdrop in and of itself must be a monster now. I know I'm not the only one impressed by the caliber of work the Goulet team puts in out there in every area. Great question, Ashley. Great question. The bottom line that I can say is all of it is hard. All of it. The vendor relationships, the quality control checking, the customer service, the handwritten notes, the packing, the videos, the photography, the engagement on social media, all of it's hard. Not one bit of it is easy. Not one bit. Just get that out of your head if you think any of it's easy. And any other retailer who's watching this is just like, yeah, tell me about it. It's hard. It's just hard. It takes so much time and intention and planning and experience and effort and care and passion to do things the way that we do it. That's why most people have a hard time doing it. And not to be on a high horse about it, honestly, because I'm actually extremely humbled by the way we run our business, because every single day we screw stuff up. Every single day we fall short. But we just pick ourselves up and keep on going, and we always try to make it right. It's very difficult to have a high-touch business like this. That's why we do have so many people talking about us. That's why we've done some like Facebook boosting and a little bit of ad stuff that we've been messing around with. Nothing significant worth mentioning really at all. I used to be really firm about we've never done paid advertising. We've dabbled here and there because the Facebook algorithms and stuff have been changing, and basically no one sees any of your stuff unless you pay for it. It's social media, things changed, but from a grand perspective, we have done no significant advertising of any kind other than the content marketing, the customer service, all that kind of stuff. The only reason that has worked for us is because people have been talking about us and people appreciate what we've done. And the only reason that is happening is because it's rare, is because it's hard to do it and you don't see it happening very often. There are a lot of other retailers that do a lot of great things, and I'm not trying to discount that by any means. I think everyone should do business this way. It's actually to my advantage that people don't all do it this way, because then it would be less special, which is why we're continually trying to up our game. And I will say, after 6 years of doing this now, a lot of other retailers have been upping their game, which has made it that much harder for us to stand out. And we have our own reputation to follow. So it is a huge challenge. But all of it's hard. The handwritten notes, I will say, are particularly challenging. And man, we have continuing conversations about, does it really matter to people about doing these handwritten notes? Because it takes time. Our customer care team spends a tremendous amount of time. I would argue to say at this point, we all kind of share the load and do that stuff, but I would say it's pretty safe to assume that we are paying pretty much one full-time customer care person to sign handwritten notes. It's probably at about that volume. With the amount of time it takes in cleaning the pens and doing it and taking all the time, it's probably about that. So in the beginning, it was easy. Oh, it just takes a few seconds. Well, a few seconds over hundreds of orders can add up to be a very significant amount of time. Excuse me. And not like we're some huge conglomerate or anything, but we are doing some decent volume to support 30-some people here. And I can say that, pretty safely. So it takes a lot of time. So looking at any little piece of the puzzle, man, if we took away handwritten notes, that would free us up to do so many other things. We're having those very real conversations right now. We actually just had our offsite leadership meeting and had company meetings around this. And we have a thematic goal over the next 6 months at least for us. It's be intentional. You know, the thing that gets most companies after they've been around for a few years is the sacred cows. It's the well, we've done it, we do it this way because that's how we've always done it. Ooh, that is like, as soon as that phrase is even approached in this building, we immediately go, we need to take another look at that and revisit the purpose of this and see if it makes sense. Sometimes it definitely does. We ask that time and again about handwritten notes, time and again about our packing method. Does this really make sense? We dig into it, oh, well, it does affect this. Well, customer care, handwritten notes, customer care, how much would they actually get to use their pens if they weren't doing handwritten notes? Ooh, that would be kind of tough. Yeah, that's true. They are much more knowledgeable about their pens because they do the handwritten notes. Yeah, they are better customer service reps because they know these pens better. Yeah, dang it, that is definitely a fringe benefit of doing these handwritten notes. Well, what about, well, people get to see the ink that they wouldn't normally get to see, so there's a marketing aspect to it too. Plus, people post on Reddit about it, and people post here and there, and they talk about it, and it really makes people feel good. There's definitely an intangible aspect to that. Yeah, you're right. How much is that really worth? Oh, I don't know, it's hard to gauge. You know, and having these conversations from a strategic perspective, that's where my head is at as a business owner these days. How much does that really matter? So I have to weigh it out. Here's how much it costs, which is very easy to calculate. Here's how much benefit it's providing. Ooh, that gets a lot tougher. So be intentional. That is really where our focus is for 2016. Not just doing things the way we've always done it, but doing things because we know we've spent the time to analyze, is it really moving the needle for people? Does it really matter to people the most? If we didn't have that full-time equivalent customer care person writing handwritten notes, what if they were doing something else? What else could we dream up that they could be doing that might be better for people? I'm not saying we're taking away handwritten notes, believe me, we're not. But that's just a very real, tangible example. The handwritten notes is definitely one thing that not many other people do, especially at the size that we are, because of just how much it takes to do it. Not only in actually doing the handwritten note, but in the order flow process. You know, we can't just come in on a Monday and start doing fulfillment. We have to wait until all the orders are processed, all the order changes are done, and then the note is written before our team can pull anything. So it affects our team. We have to have our customer care folks, our order processors, come in 7 o'clock, sometimes 6:30, sometimes 6 in the morning. If we're coming off a holiday and things are really crazy, they sometimes come in 2 hours early. And they're awesome for doing that because they know they have to process the order so that they can print it so that our team, when they come in at 8, can start writing the notes, and then our fulfillment team can start packing at 9. Like, it's crazy. If we didn't do handwritten notes, our fulfillment team would be able to just print stuff and start shipping it out immediately. So it gets complicated. It takes intention, and it's really, really tough. So I would say some of the overall, the hardest thing about our company growing and kind of keeping it like this is keeping our soul. That's just very general, but keeping our soul, keeping that feel, that same spirit that we had when Rachel and I started the company 6 years ago in our house. But now we have 30-some people here. We have people that come and people that go for various reasons, but turning people over, bringing new people on, teaching them about fountain pens, teaching them the way of Goulet, so to speak, and having that consistent feel. Those of you who have been shopping with us for several years, you know you're getting handwritten notes from different people over that time. For many reasons, people need to come and go, and that's fine. But, you know, to keep that same feel, that same magic alive, it does not happen by accident. It is extremely intentional. And I spend a lot of my personal time and effort making sure that that happens. And that can be really tough. That's really tough as a leader for me. You know, I don't just sit around and play around with pens all day, as much as I would love to, believe me. That, I have to very much work that in my time. I have to really be intentional about scheduling time for videos like this. You know, I have this video, I'm actually late to a meeting right now. I'm supposed to meet with one of our sales reps who's probably here at this point, but I'm still shooting this video and Rachel's talking with him and we came up with a plan for if I talk too long in the Q&A, because it happens a lot. But that's, I have to be intentional about that. It takes commitment and time and very intentional. Literally, I'm not joking, I schedule out every minute of my day. I'm not joking. Every minute of my day is planned at this point because I just have so many things I have to balance out. So many demands on my time and our rest of our team, man, they balance a lot too. So It's really challenging, being intentional. That's about it. Yeah, that's where I'll leave it off for that question. I still have 2 more questions. Okay, I'll be quick. Pato W on Facebook, 3rd question of this Q&A for Pato. What's the oddest requests you guys have had in the special request section? So in like the order comments section on our invoices. What's the oddest request we've ever had? We've had some good ones. A lot of them are related to drawing requests, which a little bit of backstory as to why we do the drawing requests. This is kind of like, we already do the handwritten notes, right? But why do we take on these drawing requests? A lot of it has to do with the fact that Drew, our customer care manager, loves to draw. So when we first initially got drawing requests, it was like, I ain't gonna draw it. I can't really draw. You know, and it would be pretty sad. I can do a pretty mean snowman and some stick figures, and that's about it. A beach ball maybe, but Drew likes to draw. So he was like, oh yeah, I'll be up for it, it won't take long. It all started on Reddit number of years ago, probably 4.5 years ago. We started to get drawing requests. I remember some of the first like ones that really stuck out. It was a request for some kind of like robot or dinosaur or something like that. It was a thing that was happening on Reddit at the time of like, hey, when you order something from somebody online, ask them to draw a dinosaur. I think it was a dinosaur. Like ask them to draw a dinosaur on your package and see if they'll do it, and then post a picture of it. That was like the thing. And those of you who've been on Reddit for a while, you probably know what I'm talking about. So we started to get this request of like, draw a dinosaur, and I was like, that's weird. I was like, Drew, do you want to draw a dinosaur? He's like, sure. You know, it was just kind of a fun, quick thing, and he did it. And somebody posted on Reddit, and they were like, oh my gosh, check out this dinosaur that Goulet did. And what happened? A bunch of people from Reddit started ordering and asking for drawing requests of dinosaurs. So I'm not joking, like the next couple of weeks, it was like several a day. We were like, we're getting all these requests for dinosaur drawings. And we didn't know. They didn't say like, oh, I'm going to post it on Reddit and blah, blah, blah. It was just a drawing request for a dinosaur. And then like for the next couple of weeks, it was like we were getting several requests for drawings of dinosaurs. And we were like, this is really weird. And then we started looking it up, and we found like it's a Reddit thing. And it was like, oh, okay. And we're like, should we really keep doing this? Like, it's actually kind of taking a significant amount of time to be doing these drawing requests. So now the way that we have it is we'll do a drawing request if and when we're able, if we don't feel like it's going to hold up your order too bad. A lot of times it gets delayed a couple days, but I'm not joking. We have a folder that is you know, near where we process all of our orders that's for drawing requests. And if you have a drawing request, we stick it in there, and if we can get to it in a reasonable time, we'll do it. If not, we'll just ship it out and apologize. But we don't advertise anywhere. I guess now I am, which my team's going to maybe not be as happy about that, but we don't try to openly advertise that we do drawing requests because, guys, come on, it takes a lot of time, and we have like other things we need to do. But you know, they're fun. The team enjoys doing them from time to time, and so we'll do them upon request. So please just don't flood us with all these crazy requests. I was hesitant to almost take this this question because I didn't want to flood my team with all this crazy stuff, but I'll go ahead and share. So a lot of it has to do with the drawing requests. So right off the bat, I'll say that it was the Reddit one with the dinosaurs. A really funny one that we had that actually just popped up on Reddit, of all places, was a request to write a note, a thank you note, without using the letter E. And the reason that it got really, really popular is because Cindy and Jeremy, who are our order processors, they're the ones who charge the credit cards and do the combining orders and all that stuff. They're rock stars. But the reason it's so funny is because Cindy wrote the note and just wrote a normal note, but just did not include the letter E in the words. So it was all just like write, but it didn't have an E on the end, so it looks like writ, and you know, stuff like that. So really kind of fun stuff. And so she wrote just a normal note and didn't use the letter E, and that was her workaround. And then Jeremy was like, no, 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 that's cheating. Didn't use the word cheating because it didn't have an E, but basically like literally wrote only using words that don't have E's. And it was kind of funny. And so they kind of like wrote some things back and forth to each other on it related to that. And it was really funny. And then the person that got it ended up, they had no idea it was going to go on Reddit. But then the person, in fact, as I asked them about this question, I told them about that, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me!" They were just having fun. But you know, it ended up on Reddit, and it's good. You know, it's good for us. It's good PR. You know, when it does happen to end up somewhere, or people tweet it out, or Instagram, or whatever, it's fun. That's never an expectation, but that's part of why we do it, is because we know it's so enjoyable that it might end up somewhere. But some of the other odd requests that we've gotten. This one is, we understand it. It can be a little cumbersome and we're not always able to honor it, but specific patterns or color ratios on the swirls of Noodler's pens, those can get a little maddening sometimes because people will say like, I really like this, you know, rattlesnake and adrenaline pen, but I would like it to have 60% black ratio and 40% white ratio as long as the white is at least half pearlescent. And we're like, really? It's a $40 pen. It's a $40 acrylic pen. Like, we can't go through and check every single pen to get this specific ratio. Like, sometimes we're not able to honor that stuff, but we get some very specific requests like that. Some other fun ones, we had somebody that asked us to draw a fountain pen chasing the Goulet staff. That happened. We've had a lot of really interesting drawing requests, a lot of them. We had somebody that asked us to cover up or remove a Noodler's label that they didn't particularly care for. It was somebody that had actually a phobia related to something that was on one of the bottles, and they asked us to remove the label so that they didn't have to look at it and get frightened when they, you know, they still wanted the ink, they knew it was a color they wanted, but they didn't want to be scared by the label. That was a very interesting one. And then this is a very interesting one. We had someone that asked us to swing our tuchus back and forth and sing a song as we pulled their order. Now, of course, they could never verify that, and I was not able to verify with my team whether or not that actually happened. But it was certainly one that stuck out in people's memory. So the thing I will say is some of the requests, you know, please just be courteous as to how much time you're asking us for and all that when you do it. But my team, we read every single order comment. We do. And it's really entertaining when we get some funny ones. So please continue to do that, because you know, if you're doing just great encouraging comments is always good for the team. Really funny things, it just helps to lighten up the day. Sometimes they're dealing with some tough troubleshooting and some, you know, there's some legitimate kind of tough stuff we deal with, but it really helps to lighten the mood, especially for my customer care team, when you leave some kind of like funny and interesting comments. So you can leave some funny comments for them and say that Brian told you to, and that would be kind of cool for my team. Last question for this week is Daniel D on Facebook. This is a troubleshooting question. Daniel asks, while rinsing out the cap of my Pilot Custom 823, some water got trapped behind the inner rubber seal. He's talking about the cap insert. Because this is a demonstrator, you can see the water is trapped inside the cap whenever you look at the pen. Do you know of an easy way to temporarily remove the rubber seal so that you can clean out and dry up any water or ink that gets trapped behind it? Daniel, I'm about to rock your world, brother. So yes, you can do that. Pilot Custom 74 is the same way. A lot of TWSBI pens also the same way. This is a technique I've used many times, so those of you who are familiar will know. Get yourself a rubber band and a pencil or something pencil-like. The thickness of the pencil tends to work pretty well. This rubber band I have is not particularly wide, so I have to kind of double it up, and it's very long as well, not your normal rubber band. But basically what you're trying to do is get a little rubber gripitude going on, yep, that's a word, going on to the end of your pencil, just to add a little bit of thickness to it, give it a little bit of grip, and then basically it's just a friction fit insert inside the top here. So I'm going to stick it in, really kind of jam it in pretty well, and then see if I can turn it, and then voila, look at that. So it's a black insert on here, and then you can just use a Q-tip or something and kind of swab out the inside. I actually have a little bit of ink behind mine that I couldn't even really tell was there, but you know, it's a good opportunity for me. So I'm gonna just go ahead and swab it out right now as we're talking. Yeah, I'm gonna clean it out. Oh, need a little bit of water. So there you go, that's how you do it. And then to put it back in is exactly the same. Yes, I do have a water bottle that's made out of a Goulet pen flush bottle. It just says water on it. Yep, so there you go, swabbing it out, yada da da da. That's my swabbing song I sing every time. Just kidding, that's weird, I don't do that. There we go, use the dry end of the Q-tip to dry it out. Beautiful, wonderful. Clean off the end of the insert. And then when it comes time to put it back, you don't have to have the rubber band to put it back. You can just kind of take that off. You just take the pencil, push it back up in there, friction fit, and that's it, man. You're good to go. Daniel, hopefully I can help you out with that. Good way to end the Q&A this week. Question of the week for this week. I would like to know, I'm going to go back to an earlier question I had about the grip with the slipperiness. I would love to know from you, What pen has the absolute best grip, the grip that you love the most, and why? It can definitely be a personal thing. You know, I'd love the more personal and interesting, the better. I think it would be great information for people to be able to read and get a lot of differing opinions. I think that would be fantastic. The grip of the pen is something that I think is the hardest to describe. It's the hardest to really get across and is one of the least talked about things, but it can really make the difference because that's what you're actually holding. So, love to hear about that, embellish on that a little bit. And what I will say is I have been loving how many question of the week comments I've been getting lately. It's been fascinating. I know I'm not responding to every single one, but I am reading them. And I'm really loving how much you guys are engaging on YouTube especially. Thank you, the blog as well. It's really awesome. And it's one of the things that I love the most from a community standpoint about the comments is that we're getting to kind of share experience together and we're all getting to benefit from each other's knowledge and experiences. Super cool. So that's it for this week. Thank you so much for watching another Goulet Q&A. If you haven't subscribed to YouTube yet, you might be the last ones. So hurry up and do it before the slots run out. I'm just kidding. No, please subscribe if you haven't already. I'm gonna put lots more cool videos out. Gonna have lots of interviews coming up. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So I appreciate that. Be sure to comment on YouTube or on the blog. But continue to ask me questions because without you asking me questions, I would just be talking at you with the camera and I'd be making stuff up every week. And I need the questions to prompt my thought. That's it for now. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great week and right on.